All right. What's up, cool Nates or Kates, cats, cool cats? Um, can you guys hear me? See me? Looks like the stream is super choppy. Let me know though if you could see and hear me okay. I'm just trying to test some things out, because this is more of the way I would like to stream, but it needs to look okay and sound okay. So it's still pretty choppy, or is it? Yeah, why is it so choppy? So the audio is good, but the video is still pretty choppy, or is it getting better? Okay, is the audio better when the microphone is closer to me like this? Does that make the audio better? Yeah, that's a Krampus mask my sister got me a couple years ago. Yeah, I don't hear any audio hissing. Let me see if I turn it down, if it helps. Maybe the volume is too loud. What about now? Is it... So it's still clipping. Alright, I turned the audio down some. Let me know if that works better. If the hissing's still bad, if it's clipping. Sucks. I really want to do it this way with my mic setup, but... Hey, Vanity. Yeah, I'm working on trying to get the levels right. Like, as the audio... I turned down some levels. It's still... Alright, let me try to turn it down a little bit more. Now tell me where we're at. And is it still sounding hissy? Is it still clipping? Because it's crazy. It's not even coming close to the red. It shouldn't be clipping at all. But this is my first time trying OBS with this mic setup. So this is what I usually record with, so I know the settings going through GarageBand, but not this way. And I know if I'm not close enough to this microphone, it does make... You can hear airy sounds around me. So I know... You know, it's a podcast mic, so you're supposed to be right up on them. So no bass, very tinny. I'm not even sure how to adjust that because... see if I can work through this. Okay, turn the bass down. Alright, how about now? This thing is mostly gone, but when you get too close to the mic, it gets distorted. Okay. So, let's move it away from me a little bit. Alright, let's see where the levels are at now. Because I have a preamp that I'm adjusting over. It doesn't let me adjust much on the, like on OBS. OBS doesn't. Let's see, filters. I don't think. I wish I could hear it. Let me try to see if I can get my mic set up on it. Okay. Oh, there we go. I think I can hear it through here. Check, check. Okay, so it sounds pretty good. There is that airy thing still, which I don't know what that's from. Oh yeah, that's pretty good now, huh? What do you guys think? Yeah. Yeah, the video's choppy. I think it's just because I don't have the greatest connection right now. I'm not exactly sure why my Wi-Fi is. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure why my Wi-Fi isn't. Check. Thank you so much, Elbeast. Not very many of you were notified. It looks like only 16 people here. I guess that's good since it's we're trying to work out the bugs, but this will really help me a lot in the future. So it looks like I had my gain on the preamp too high. It's not the San Francisco hat. If anything, this is my good luck hat. That's why it's so old. I've been wearing this hat forever. Yeah, I'm totally down for any Q&A, guys. For any Q&As you guys got going. So shoot away. Any questions out there, I am more than happy to just hang out with you guys. So look, I got my first legit channel sponsor slash affiliate. So pretty excited about it. It should make some decent money down the road. I can't really talk about who it is yet because I don't want anybody going there and giving them their money yet until I get credit for it. It's not like it's not one of those like big deals where you get a whole bunch of money up front or anything like that. It's but it's going to be another source of income that ultimately could help a ton for me being able to do this full time and surviving. So good night, Vanity. Thanks for popping in. I'm still here. Yeah, it's like it's super weird. It's ending the stream. Yeah, it's the signal. It's really weak. Let me try to boost my internet signal. I think I just boosted the signal, so hopefully that'll help. All right, I think we're gonna finally be okay on the signal because before it was like my light was going green and then red and then green and then red. Let me know, everybody check in. Let me know if you guys can hear me. Let me know if the choppiness is gone. And if the choppiness is gone and it sounds okay and we can move forward, then I'll start doing some. Then I'll start doing some Q&A. Hey, Tina Stanley and Artist 11. Yep, it looks like it's solid green now. So definitely start sending me some of your questions. Let's do a little Q&A since I'm already rocking and rolling on here. Anyone have any good recommendations for me? Like suspense, thriller, mysteries. I like a good twist. Gary, did you watch my video that came out today on Shudder? My Shudder video. I feel like I had some pretty good recommendations on there, and definitely some good ones that are thriller, you know, might fit into what you're talking about. Especially the movie Lucky. Like if you haven't watched Lucky yet, I feel like that's a good choice. I do want to do a Giallo list actually because I feel like I have a real blind spot for Giallo, and every Giallo movie I've ever seen I've really enjoyed. So it's 100% something I want to do. And this sponsor deal, if it goes as well as I think it's going to, it's going to help me stress less. Which, if I basically if I have enough money to eat, because right now I legitimately not even sure how I'm going to have food tomorrow. Like that's the kind of boat I'm in. So if I'm able to stop stressing on money like that and focus just on the channel and being able to have things to do to get me out of the house and things like that, it's going to allow me to be able to just really dig into work and have fun with it and do the research I want to. And so that's the goal over the next couple of months, is to start doing like one video that would be like recommendations on a streaming service, and then the next video will be more of a deep dive, like the Giallo list, that kind of thing. But then I'm also going to continue with this live stream thing, doing at least one live stream every Friday, doing a movie night, probably if not every weekend, every other weekend with the patrons, and then maybe do once like one movie night a month where we'll do like a public domain movie on the channel on here so that everybody can join in and we'll just watch a stupid old movie together. Um, and so just doing more and more stuff like that. But I also want to start traveling. And that's a big part because my mental health is really not great right now. So I need to do a little traveling because I can't walk right now because of my stupid foot. So I can't even just go to like a park. And so the only alternative to that is to just kind of going on drives and driving some places and doing things like that. So thank you so much, Chris. Every penny makes a huge deal to me right now. Like you don't understand how big of a deal that is right now. Especially like a few people on the last stream sent money directly to PayPal, I think, or Venmo. Those are even huge, or even more huge, because when you donate to the channel like that, I get it, but not for like over a month. On the, not the next paycheck after that or whatever, but everything donated straight to PayPal and Venmo kind of thing, I get right away. So, but yeah, it just means a lot to me mentally, emotionally, and then literally helping me eat. So I very much appreciate that. Um, but anyway, yeah, so just a lot of plans of things I want to do, and doing a Giallo video like that is really something I really want to do. I really enjoy Dead and Buried. I think Dead and Buried is a fantastic movie. It's one of my favorite classics. You looking for newer or older? Let's see. Signed up for Shudder today. Nice. I think you're gonna enjoy Shudder. The key is to follow my recommendations because it's hard to know what's good on Shudder a lot of times because you may not recognize the names, and that way, in this way, I can help you out because I'll watch a lot of the movies on there and can kind of give you at least a little bit of a better idea of which ones you might enjoy. And I've done, I don't even know how many lists at this point for Shudder. So if you just go in the backlog on the channel and look up the Shudder videos, you're going to see a ton of other options. Not just because the one great thing about Shudder is a lot of the video or a lot of the movies I recommend are originals. They don't go anywhere. They're just, so a video I did a year ago is still going to be valid because the movies on there are generally still on Shudder. Man, I love Serpent in the Rainbow so much. I wish it was streaming on one of the main streaming services right now, but I don't see it anywhere. Victor, I'm really glad you enjoyed um, The Curse. I love that movie so much. 25? Just wait. I'll give you a lot more than 25 movies. All right, if anybody has a question, make sure you put the word question first and then write your question. Because I'm starting to get more and more comments. I can't read them all, but I want to make sure I read any questions. My Venmo is my name. I have it actually on the screen. So if you look on the bottom near my name of the screen, it says Venmo, and so it's Kanan/Becker. Honeydew is fantastic. I've had that on the channel a couple times, Gary. If you haven't seen Honeydew yet, Honeymoon as well, even though they're saying their names, but yeah, Honeymoon and Honeydew, both really good movies that I think are really worth your time. And Chris again, thank you so much, Chris. Do you prefer it 1990 or it 2017? There, I cannot say which one I prefer, to be honest, because I love them both, but for just different reasons. Because I love the original It so much. It is so nostalgic for me. The performances are amazing. Just I love it for what it is, for like a nostalgic old school movie, right? But then I absolutely love the 2017 It because it does horror at its best of what we can do in modern horror right now. It's fantastic. Part two wasn't as good, of course. Like most people didn't enjoy part two as much, but I still think part two was enjoyable. It just was kind of long and so CGI heavy, but part one especially was fantastic. But I love both, but just differently. Yeah, The Innkeepers is another great movie. I've recommended that on the channel a couple times as well. Super good, especially if you're a fan of Ty West. Gary, you didn't like Honeydew? It is a weird slow burn. Yeah, the It question is really a tough one. It because they're just so different from each other. And if you're my age group, it's I don't think it's possible to not love the 1990 version. Like I'm not going to argue and say that it's as good of a movie as 2017. I think produced wise, of course, 2017's better. It's a full on theatrical release, whereas 1990 was a made for TV. And that's another thing that a lot of people kind of forget. When you're trying to compare them, it's not really fair on that level either. You're talking about a movie that was made for nickels and dimes versus a movie that was made for, for a super high end theatrical, like the best acting, the best special effects. Like it had the best of the best on it. All right. Did the stream end? Oh, there we go. My screen just went black on my phone because I'm reading the questions on there. Let's see here. Where do we go? Leave off. A Japanese horror list, just Asian horror in general, is something else I would like to dig more and more into. It's another very big blind spot. It's just I struggle with subtitles. I've talked about this quite a few times before, but I have really bad dyslexia and then really bad eyesight. So the combination of the two make reading subtitles a lot of work. So I do watch them. I just can't nearly as much as I'd like, especially because a lot of my vision thing comes and goes because it's to do with my diabetes. So some days my vision is super cloudy, like today, and even getting up close and looking like right up on my phone like this, I can still barely read these comments. Whereas other days, it's not that bad. So It's one of those things where you have to, or I have to kind of pick and choose. I can't watch subtitled movies all the time every day. I tend to go see more foreign movies when they're in theaters because of it being on the big screen. You can read the subtitles a lot easier. But when it's like on my little, because that's the other thing. I don't have like a big TV. I literally have um, my my laptop and my. Uh, I usually always watch my movies on this, because then at least I can get as close as I need to read the subtitles. Turn off volume. Ah, sorry. Sorry, guys. I know it was double in there for a second. That's annoying. I promise I'll get better at doing this stuff the longer I go. That's why I didn't want to um, publicize that I was going to do this live today because I didn't know how smooth it would go. I wanted to try to work out some of the kinks before a more public, one on Friday where more people will be on probably. And then looks like I just got a donation on Venmo from someone. From Aaron. Thank you so much, Aaron. She said, or yeah, she said, stay rad. It puts the lotion on its skin for your foot. No, they got my foot all crazy wrapped up. It's a whole lay wrap. It goes all the way to my knee. It's a compression wrap. So I definitely can't put lotion on it. I can't even touch it or see it. I'm going right now once a week to see my podiatrist, and then they look at it and put medication on it and then rewrap it. So yeah, because it's a real serious kind of situation right now. It's why like I'm so dependent on this channel right now financially and whatnot. It's because I can't even do like DoorDash or any other side hustle because I'm which is fine because this is what I should be doing anyway. Like with the sponsor stuff starting to come through, and it's I'm basically there. Like I'm not gonna have to really, you know, I'm not gonna have to be quite as screwed financially anymore. Like within the next, like by next month, I still have about a month left of being like, top prominent, but yeah, that's a lot of the reason why is this stupid foot. I'm a diabetic, and it was I was getting exercise. I was walking regularly because I need to get exercise, and I got the callus basically on my big toe uh, just tore off. I didn't even touch it. I got home one day and it was just hanging there. They ended up having to amputate part of the toe, and so here we are. So I'm gonna be off my feet except for a stupid walking boot for all of summer. I'm hoping because I had this happen before where they had to take another part of the toe, same big toe, but they took that much. Now they took some more. Um, I don't know. I'm not trying to get all gory and gross and freak you guys out, and I'm not trying to get all down and gloomy because that's not my way either. It's just the big toe. It's not a big deal. It just sucks that I'm like, stuck at home in the summertime. This is like it's the 3 out of the last 4 summers I've been in this boat. It sucks. But luckily I have you guys to keep me company. All right, who's got some more questions for me? I loved the Empty Man movie. I saw it in theaters for the little tiny window that it was in theaters or theaters were open. And I had no idea that so few people were going to get to see that movie in theaters because it was lockdown and things kind of opened back up for a couple weeks. And she's like, "Oh, cool, we're going to open back up." And then right away they shut all the theaters down again. But luckily, I was able to see that movie during that little window. Um, but I love that movie. But I didn't even know that it was a like I had no idea that it was a graphic novel or a comic or whatever. So good information, Hell Beast. Question: do you read horror comics or manga? No, I have never been able to really afford. It's complicated. Everything about me is complicated. Well, like growing up, I didn't have money, and I didn't know how to read. To be completely honest, I didn't go to school. I was kind of taught at home, but not really. My mom was a religious, kind of yeah, and like we were in and out of cults, and like it was bad. It was a bad thing. But I wasn't taught to read, so it wasn't until I was a teenager that I taught myself how to read. I got a job, and I was able to fake it till I was able to figure things out, and I taught myself how to read by reading the menu. I had to figure out what was on the menu, and literally, I that was my Rosetta Stone. I taught myself how to read, and so I just didn't really grow up with comics and didn't grow up reading, so I never was really big into it. And then I tried to get into it a while back, but I just have never been able to afford comics on a regular enough basis to be able to get into that. And reading too, it's one of those things. If you don't grow up with something, you just generally don't do it as much. And so, I have read some now. I can read. I don't have a problem reading now if I can fucking see it. But um, I'd like to more. It's just there's only so much time in the day too, so you have to like pick the things you're into. And originally I got into mixed martial arts and sports, and I went that direction and music. I was in metal bands, the singer of metal bands for the first like 20, like 6, almost 20 years, like from late teens until deep into my 30s. And then I started doing visual medium art. And so I've always been a worker kind of thing. Always been making things and doing things like that. So the same reason I've never gotten huge into video games. Like I play them a little, but never gotten huge into those either. It's stuff I would like to have more experience on and try out more. Once again, when I have more money, I'd like to try, that stuff out more, especially graphic novels, because they're just gorgeous. They're just so cool. And I'd love to kind of go back to the origins in a lot of ways of where a lot of these movies come from. All right, let's see here. All right, looking for some questions. All right, question from Just Nick. What are your thoughts on the Paranormal Activity franchise? Favorite film in the franchise? Um, I feel like it's the first one because I felt like after that it really just became like kind of like what happened with the Saw franchise. It was really just repetitive. It was variations on the same thing. So they all just kind of became a mush in my head. I went and saw all of them and enjoyed all of them, just like the Saw movies, and had a lot of fun every year when the new one came out. Enjoyed it. But as far as like memorable, none of them were super memorable. The first two, I think, Paranormal Activities were, you know, after that it just got very repetitive. But I did really enjoy the most recent one because it was the most unique that I had seen of them in quite a while. And it didn't really, the only issue with it, it's called Next of Kin, Paranormal Activity Next of Kin. I did a review of it, but the big problem with it is it isn't really a Paranormal Activity movie. It doesn't fit into. It doesn't fit with the other ones, which is why I really liked it. But it's also why it doesn't like it really. It shouldn't necessarily have been called that. But it was very unique, and it really went away from everything that the paranormal movies had done before and did something original and different. And so I really enjoyed it for that. But I also faulted it for that because it's really not a paranormal franchise movie. Looking for the next question. Make sure you write question. Sepultura was forever my favorite band of all time. I just don't really have a favorite band anymore. Hi HCF. I just don't really pick like one favorite band because it just all depends on the mood I'm in. But Sepultura and Machine Head were my favorite bands forever, like forever. But then now as I've gotten older, I just enjoy all different types of music. It isn't just metal, although I'm still probably it's probably a 60-40 that I listen to like hard rock and metal most days. I listen to hard rock or metal at least pretty much every day for at least a portion of it, and then I'll kind of blend in other kinds of music depending on the mood I'm in. There's really not any type of music I don't like, depending on the mood I'm in. Like certain days I don't want to listen to certain bands at all, but then other days, um, I'll listen to that. So literally, I'll listen to everything. I think probably the only thing I don't and will not listen to is like Christian music, like religious music, or I won't really listen to like gospel, like anything kind of spiritual. Like that's just not my jam. Like I'm not in any way judging you if you enjoy that or whatever. Like that's cool, but that's just not like anything I'm interested in. I keep dropping everything. I played a show with Testament years ago and a show with Deicide. That was a long time ago. Question from C.E. Trang. I recognize the Michael Myers William Shatner mask behind you, but what are the other two masks next to it? Let's see. One is Krampus. It's a Trick or Treat Studios Krampus that my sister still got the tag on it. My sister got it for me for Christmas a few years ago. And then this one in the middle, I don't even know. It's just a pumpkin head like thing, but I don't know what it's actually from. I just found it on like a clearance one year at Spirit, but it didn't have any tags on it or anything. So I'm not exactly sure which one it is, but it's just one of my favorite sculpts. Like I really enjoy that mask. So I have other masks, but those are the ones that I just kind of always have out and keeping me company. The Krampus one is always on the set at Christmas time, always. And then the Michael Myers is my 78 Trick or Treat sculpt that I actually refinished myself and tried to get it as close as I could to the actual original um, paint job, the original finish that the first one had. Um, and so I always generally put that out for Halloween, for October at some point. It's hard to read and talk. Like I wonder how easy that is for most people. Because like I want to read what you guys are saying, like a lot of these, but it's hard to read it and then also be talking to you guys about whatever. All right, next question from Thomas Bays. What was your biggest disappointment for a movie you were excited about? This goes back a long time, and I've had some, I'm sure, since, but for whatever reason, it was the one that jumped into my head just now. But it was Congo. It was done by the same people that did Jurassic Park, and it was promoted in that way. And it came out like a couple years after Jurassic Park, and so it wasn't just me. Everybody, all my teenager friends, like we were all so excited to go see Congo, and it was the biggest like train wreck, dumb, disappointing, boring. Like I don't even. It's been a long time since I've seen that movie, so maybe it's not as bad as I remembered back then. But I remember back then being so mad, so upset. Like we were so excited. We went and saw it at the drive-ins first night, and we had a big group of us, like 4 or 5 cars, just loaded full of my friends, and like we were so jazzed, and then we were just like, "This sucks." And I stayed and watched the whole thing. Some of my friends like said "fuck this" and actually left, but I stayed for the whole thing. I didn't hate the movie that much, but I was because if I remember correctly, it wasn't that it's a horrible movie. It's just when your expectations are that high, and I the way Jurassic Park affected all of us way back then when you were a young teenager, because like I was pretty young. I was like preteen, I think, when the original Jurassic Park came out. But by the time Congo came out, I was a full on teenager. And so I was just so excited to see it. It was just, ugh, so boring. Uh, my favorite horror comedy. See, that's really a tricky thing because a lot of movies are like a comedy movie with some horror. Then there's movies that are horror movies with some comedy in it. So like Scream, I would say is like predominantly a horror movie with comedy in it. But Evil Dead 2, I think, is probably my favorite horror comedy. And I don't know if that is. I don't know if a lot of people would argue with that or not. But it feels like a horror movie. It feels like equal parts. So that's a lot of why it's. I mean, it's a masterpiece, but it's also a lot of the reason why I think that would be my pick because it's both equal parts comedy, maybe a little more horror, but it still has plenty of really good comedy in it. So, but it's also still a really good horror movie. I actually saw a horror comedy last night, and I'm probably gonna do a review on it. But I went and saw the new The Blackening, and I enjoyed it. And I'll probably, like I said, probably do a review on it. But it just, I'm still trying to make my thoughts up on it. For some reason, I'm struggling with kind of how I want to talk about it because it just I wanted to enjoy it more than I did, and I can't really figure out why I didn't enjoy it more. And I don't know if it was to do with the mood I was in or what. But for some reason, like I did enjoy it. But it feels much more like a comedy than it does a horror movie. And it almost felt like it's a comedy that's trying to do horror stuff, but everything was just trope heavy, didn't feel authentic, and so it just felt like almost like it was making fun of horror in a weird way. Like, and that's probably just me. I don't know. Yeah, a lot of people can't do country. I like country. It's not something I listen to all the time, but especially old country. I really enjoy a lot of old country, but I got to be in the right mood for it. let's see. A question from Mandy Who. Do you have a favorite genre of horror? Yes, definitely. It would be cosmic horror. Cosmic horror, I love it so much. I just don't understand why there's not more cosmic horror, cuz it's like the practically perfect genre of horror in my opinion. It can be so scary. Um it's just so good when it's done good. It's literally amazing. But it unfortunately is just a lot of times it's so low budget that it just really can't be that good because it's just like bottom of the barrel quality. Let's see. Mark Mark has a question. What horror movie or horror franchise do you think deserves a reboot? A reboot. Hmm? I I really like it's such an I know it's like the easy answer, but I think it's got to be um, Nightmare on Elm Street. Like I love Robert England. I love what that franchise was, but like it's time. If we're gonna see Nightmare on Elm Street again, it's got to be that. Robert England has been very clear, like he's done playing that character, and I don't blame him. He's very much up there in age. Like there's no way he can do the physical things that he would need to do to play Freddy Krueger anymore, and it's the one big franchise that's missing. Like with all of that's been going on in the horror world, it just feels incomplete without having Nightmare on Elm Street. And so to me, it's such an obvious choice, but it's also the most like one that um, has to be next. At least as far as a big one, you know, you could like it would definitely be cool to reboot like maybe one of the smaller like little smaller ones that were done way back um I don't know. I'm trying to think of what would be another franchise that would be cool to reboot from way back, but um, probably another one that would be cool would be do a good version. See, man, I don't know. That's so tough because I don't like so much of what made a lot of the old franchises what they were and what was so special about them. What it was the time of which they were made. That's why it's always so tough to make like to remake a franchise or do a remake like to a great franchise. Like if you take a small property that nobody really knows much about, but then it's kind of like, well, why are you going to spend that money to remake it? Like man, I'm really trying to think because I know there is a franchise later on today. I'm going to be like, that should have been my answer. I'll try to keep that mulling around. If something pops in my head, I'll jump on it. Question from Jing: what the what the f is Malignant? What the fuck is Malignant? I just watched it for the first time last night and was howling. I'm a lonely old lady, so I don't usually crack up alone on my couch. But what the fuck? That's the point, and I feel like so many people missed that. That's what's so beautiful about Malignant. it's a funny and entertaining love letter to all of the great horror that James Wan grew up with. So it's the stuff, the Giallo stuff from the 70s, stuff from the 80s, 90s, even up into the early 2000s. Like he pays tribute to all of those, and the movie does not take itself too serious. And I think so many people took that movie way too serious and were like, "This is the stupidest movie I ever saw." Blah blah. It's like, well, because you didn't get it. Like, I hate that when someone shits on a movie that you clearly it didn't connect with you. Like, don't shit on a movie that you didn't connect with. Just be like, yeah, it wasn't my thing. I didn't love it. Like, but people that are like, I hate so and so movie, like that drives me crazy. Like, because saying a movie is horrible when you just don't get it, that it make like that is probably my biggest pet peeve in the horror uh, family, the horror community, is movies like that where people don't get, and instead of just realizing they didn't get it and saying, "Hey, it just wasn't my jam," they instead shit on it and say stuff like, "It's the worst movie that was ever made," and stupid stuff like that. It's like, no, it just wasn't your jam. But I love *Malignant*. *Malignant* is one of my favorite movies, actually, from the last like probably 10 years. See, like what Mark just said, he doesn't like the first Halloween and gives it a 3 out of 10. And it's like, but you follow that up by saying it's just not to your liking, and that's the key. It's not about saying there's nothing wrong with not liking a movie. There's lots of movies that I'm not in love with that other people might love. There's nothing wrong with that. But it's about saying a movie is a bad movie when you just don't get it. Like, obviously Halloween's not a bad movie. It may not be your cup of tea, but if it was a bad movie, the vast majority of people wouldn't love it. So, if anything, you're the outlier. You know what I mean? You're the one whose opinion is different from the rest. And that's fine. But that's what is so hard about criticizing movies, being like a critic or whatever. And it's why I don't like to think of myself as a critic, cuz to criticize movies to be a critic means you're literally criticizing movies, you're critiquing them. And it just doesn't feel right in a lot of ways. Because if and I think it's because, or probably because I came from the art world, and one of the things I hated about the fine art world was that there was this like notion of that there was bad art, like that there was such a thing as bad art. It's like, no, that's not possible. It's not possible to have bad art. It's just, it's just a preference thing. It's so subjective. Like, for every piece of art that you think is bad, there's gonna be a bunch of people out there that love that same piece of art. And so you're then saying that they have bad taste, and it's like, no, it's just not your jam. It's just not what you're into. And that's why I would never enter my art into art competitions. Like, I feel like that's so wrong. It's so wrong to say whose art is better than another when it's very like a taste driven thing. Because most of my favorite art is like, a lot of people do not like it at all. And that's cool. Like, that's fine. Like, that's the way it's supposed to be. Like, we're all not supposed to be robots that all like exactly the same thing. How okay, Jing, how have you never seen the Scream movies? I don't understand that. Like, you have this huge, like, you're constantly talking about movies that I've never heard of. You have such a deep catalog of movies you've seen. How have you never watched the Scream movies? I don't think that that doesn't make you a true horror fan, but I think you really should go watch the Scream movies, at least the first one. It's this Scream had the biggest impact on the horror genre of almost anything we've seen from the last 30 years now. Like, horror was a dying art. It was really fading out. A lot of people don't realize it, but there was just this huge love for horror in the 80s, but by the early 90s it was dying. There wasn't anything that was really like, there wasn't a tentpole thing for horror, and Hollywood was not putting their money into it. And so you were getting a lot of just really not very good, not inspired horror movies. And if Scream hadn't have come out and did what it did and excite all the teenagers like myself, I don't know. I'm pretty certain horror would not be the way it is right now. Like, there's no way it would be as healthy and as vibrant and as alive as it is. Because it's right now, it's my generation and younger that have kept pushing the boundaries and continuing to keep horror alive. And if it had faded out, I don't know, man. We would have chosen something else. So I think it's very important to watch Scream. It may not be your jam. You may not like it. I mean, a lot of people don't like it, which is strange to me because it's like one of my favorites. But I get it. Like, we all are not created the same. Like, we don't all have the same opinions. Yeah, like Mandy Who just said, I like 99% of horror movies, and that would that would be me. I'm the same way. Like, that, there are not a lot of horror movies I don't like. Like, there's not very many I'm not at least entertained by. There's like, I don't love all of them. There's some that I'm just kind of like, yeah, it's okay. Like I said, I went and saw The Blackening last night, and I'm just kind of lukewarm on it, which is weird feeling to me that I don't love it more. I'm still trying to figure out why. Okay, well, the thing about the reason a lot of podcasts and a lot of creators criticize, I think, so much, they criticize horror movies and whatever. I think it's because that's kind of like what sells. If you just, like, I get a lot of shit for people all the time talking about, you love everything. Like, how can we trust your opinion when you just love everything? And I try to tell people, like, don't trust my opinion. I'm not just sitting there giving my opinion. I'm trying to, like, just give a little glimpse into different things. It doesn't mean, like, in my recommendation videos, like the one I did today for Shudder, it's not that that's 10 movies that I think every one of them is like a perfect movie or something. It's just, these are 10 movies that I think the widest net of people are going to find at least one that they enjoy. I try to put something on those lists for everyone. So it's not like I love, one of them the same as, like, they're all kind of different. Like, there's some of those 10 that I love, and then there's some on that list that I'm like, yeah, it was just all right. It was entertaining. It was fun. But I just don't hate things either. But I don't know. It's hard to explain what I'm trying to say. I think of myself as like a horror movie TV guide. So I'm just trying to help you guys find good things that you're going to be entertained by. Okay, Hellbeast wrote, question, which do you like more, Angel Heart or Devil's Advocate? And that is without a doubt Angel Heart. And it's interesting because I hadn't seen Angel Heart up until just like not too long ago, a couple years ago. Um, And I always loved Devil's Advocate, but man, Angel Heart is a brilliant movie. But it's also, I love mysteries. I love the who done it, crime drama, that kind of thing too. And so as much as it's definitely got a lot of horror in it, it also has that real neo noir mystery, gumshoe kind of fun detective thing going on that is like one of my favorite subgenres of anything. And then on top of that, Angel Heart has that really cool like hoodoo voodoo, Louisiana. There's like that magical quality that I love too. That's like another kind of subgenre in and of itself that I am a huge fan of. So Angel Heart has like so many elements of things that I just think are amazing. But that's not to say that Devil's Advocate isn't a great movie too. It's just a much different movie and it feels a lot less horror. I've never really felt that Devil's Advocate is like a super horror filling movie. Jing, you haven't seen the Scream movies, so like just watch them. Like you may not like them. I think there's a good chance that you kind of missed that window because you got to remember when the Scream movies came out, they had a lot more impact than they do now. But you can't enjoy any modern horror movies. I promise you, there isn't a single one of anything in the last 10 years that isn't on some level influenced by Scream. At least on some small level. Like, it's hard to explain to you how much of an impact in the horror world the Scream had. Like, when you listen to filmmakers, even the ones that don't like Scream, it still affected them in some way. You can be a contrarian all day long, but you haven't seen the movie, so you you really can't say you don't like the Scream movies based on just trailers and clips and what people have told you. Like if you haven't seen the movies, like you can't say you're contrarian and that you hate them because you haven't seen them yet to make that opinion. That's the key to me with everything. Like make an opinion on something. Like you don't have to like things, but don't like make your opinion without all the information. Is the way I see it. But I also personally I don't love all of the Scream movies. Like I'm like I love the first one. I've seen the first one countless times, and I enjoy the second one. I enjoy I enjoy all of the rest of them from there. There isn't another one that I love. The closest to love would probably be the second, but the only one that I truly love of the Scream movies is the first one. I super appreciate 2001 Space Odyssey, but I 100% understand people that don't love 2001 Space Odyssey. It's a slow as molasses movie that is boring. I'm not going to lie. You can come at me all you want. It is boring at times, but I super respect it, and there are elements and things about it that I think are fantastic. But I'm not a 2001 a Space Odyssey lover myself. Like it's the one thing about a lot of the 70s movies that I've never really been able to totally get on board with is the ones that are super slow. I can appreciate all of them and enjoy things about them and get in the right headspace and enjoy what they are. but not necessarily love all of them. Yeah, I did a video, ETV. I did a video on Cabinet of Curiosities. It's amazing. It's one of the best things done in the last year. There were some segments like Autopsy that are one of the best movies, like standalone. If that was a like that, I wish was a release in theaters. Like it would have been amazing. And it's a shame, in a way. Like as much as I love it, it's a shame that some of those weren't released as standalone movies because they're that good. I enjoyed Watcher as well. I saw Watcher in theaters last summer. It's funny to see people just now getting on board with Watcher when I was yelling at everybody I could last summer. Like you need to watch Watcher. It's a really good movie. It's um, very Alfred Hitchcock. Question by Brian Donahue: what if in any new Nightmare, Robert Englund was kind of like a mentor? Yeah, that's what I've been wanting. Like that's what I would like to see. And Robert Englund even came out and said that he would be interested in having some kind of cameo or whatever. But I would like it if you know, had more of that, like a mentor role, or was a detective, or something where he had an actual legit role in it, just wasn't Freddy. Like I feel like you got to have Robert Englund involved in some way. I also would like to see what we've seen with Bruce Campbell in the Evil Dead movies. I'd like to see Robert Englund working behind the scenes on it and helping to pass the torch in that way. That's something that a lot of people forget about and don't give enough credit to, is how much can be done behind the scenes. Like have Robert Englund helping the next Freddy with his mannerisms, with the way he talks. Like, he Robert Englund knows what made Freddy great, so help pass that on. You don't have to be on screen to have an impact, and that's something that, like I said, I really enjoy that we're seeing that with Bruce Campbell, and I feel like a lot more of these people, when they're too old to be able to play that role anymore, we can still get that knowledge for them, help them pass on that knowledge. I love Kolchak. I was just watching Kolchak the Night Stalker last night, the series, not the movie, but the series. Question for everyone: who's old enough to have watched the old scary Disney movies, Watcher in the Woods, Witch Mountain, and Something Wicked? I've seen all those. I think I don't remember seeing the first one you mentioned, Watcher in the Woods. I don't think I've ever seen that, but definitely Witch Mountain and Something Wicked. And I can't even find those. Like, does Disney not have those available anywhere? Cause I wanted to rewatch Something Wicked, and I was looking for it, and I didn't see it on Disney Plus or on Disney. I don't think I've ever seen Watcher in the Woods. I'm really curious what that is. Let's see. Okay, Mandy. The next question: what was the first horror movie you saw? The first horror movie I saw, legit horror movie, was the original Pet Cemetery, Stephen King's Pet Cemetery. I saw that back in, would have been probably the late '80s, early '90s. Yeah, like right, not too long after it came out, so like early '90s, I believe. Um, I was on a vacation, the first one by myself, visiting relatives in San Diego, and they had like just this huge wall of VHS tapes, and I watched it, and it scared the hell out of me, but was also super enticing and just so exciting, and I had to go back to that well um, as much as I could, because at that point I watched a lot of action movies. Like I loved Stallone and Arnold and Jean Claude Van Damme, and I hadn't really seen any horror. Like the closest to horror I had seen at that point was probably Jurassic Park, because that had come out not too long before that. Yeah, I've heard the Fire Sticks, but I don't have a TV, so it's kind of hard to watch anything really without a TV. It's also why I don't really do any gaming. I have like this little itty bitty TV that I play games on a little bit here and there, but I would like to eventually get a TV, and then when I get a TV, I'll get a Fire Stick. I hate that Disney does that. That they just do not like they just lock up a bunch of their old classics, because they're worried about it being controversial or whatever. Like I'm really getting sick and tired of Disney currently. Like I loved Disney growing up. I still love that Disney from, the last but in the last, 10 years or so, when they've become more and more of this giant company that just owns everything. I'm just really, yeah, not a big fan of them. I always forget that Netflix actually still mails out DVDs. Like, that's a trip. I watched. Okay, Hellbeast has a question. Which do you like better, Mindhunter the movie or Red Dragon? Also, Mindhunter or Silence of the Lambs? I'm a Mindhunter guy. So I watched Mindhunter not too long ago, but I haven't rewatched Red Dragon in like 20 years, or like whenever that movie came out. It was last time I saw it. So I can't make a fair on those. I would lean towards Mindhunter, at least based on what I remember, because I really enjoyed a Mindhunter like this last time I watched it. But I would still lean towards Silence of the Lambs. I just think it's I think Silence of the Lambs is like a masterpiece. Although I do think that Mindhunter is extremely underrated and a phenomenal movie, and one that like a lot more people should watch and deserves a lot more credit. Last time I checked, it's available on Shudder. So if you haven't seen it, or if it's been a while, like that's a great watch on Shudder as well. Jack Doobie, I am gonna start doing movie live streams starting this Saturday, but you got to be a patron. So you got to be a patron uh, or a channel member. I am gonna post a link for channel members too. So Friday night I'll post the link, and then Saturday night at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, we're gonna do a movie live stream. Hopefully it goes smooth. I've never done one before, but I tested it out the best I can, and that was part of why I was trying to do this setup uh, to try to get some of this ready to go for Saturday as well. For Friday, because I'm going to do another live stream Friday night, but then also the movie stream on Saturday. So definitely a movie stream coming up for channel members and for patrons. So you got to be a channel member or a patron. And if you're a channel member, there'll be a link in the community tab, but it'll only be only able to be viewed by channel members. There's nothing that's not peer pressure. It's just a lot of us love that movie. You know, it's worth your time checking it out. Like even if you don't like it, it's good to have an opinion on. Isn't Sleepwalkers the one with the people that turn into the cat people? Right? That's Sleepwalkers, isn't it? Or am I thinking of a different movie? It's like the first morph, like morphing a person in, like an animal into a person, or vice versa. If I remember right, that's like the some of the earliest CGI that's ever done in a movie. I can't say I'm a big fan of that movie. It's like it's fun and entertaining, but in a bad movie kind of way. It's not like I wouldn't consider it a good movie, but I think I would love it or like it more anyway if I had seen it in theaters. Like that's uh, anytime you see a movie in a theater, there's something to, like it's at its very best, and especially when you're young, the way it connects, it's just different. You know, you connect on a different level. What? They're not vampires. Like they turn into like cat like things. Like it looks like a weird cat thing. I know cats scare him, but I thought he looks like some weird cat thing. I never thought they were vampires. Like they don't look like regular. Or maybe I might get that mixed up with another movie. But either way, it is like one of the first morphs. Bit Dark. I mostly horror is my main as far as movie, but other forms of entertainment, watch stuff. I like true crime, and I do like indie, like a lot of like smaller indie movies. Like I just went and saw Sanctuary the other day at like this art house. Um, I'm not generally into dramas though, unless there's an artsy, creative, unique flavor to it. I love sci-fi movies. Um, not a big comedy guy. Uh, I like some action movies, but I don't know. I'm mostly a horror guy. So like sci-fi and horror, but I also do love mysteries, like especially the darker and like unnerving mysteries. I love that kind of stuff too. I always consider thrillers to be horror. Like I'm one of those people. Like I don't really draw the line there. Like to me, thrillers and horror movies are they're too closely connected to really try to separate because everybody's got a different opinion on what is a thriller and what is a horror movie. Like so many people don't consider Jurassic Park a horror movie, and then a bunch of other people do consider a horror movie. The same with sci-fi. There's a ton of movies that a lot of people are like, "That's a sci-fi movie," and then you hear a bunch of other people like, "No, that's a horror movie," like Alien. I'm not the guy. I've never been someone that feels like I need to be the the guy that makes the standard and says, you know, I'm not a gatekeeper. I'm not the person that says what is one genre and what's another. Like, you know, especially when they're so closely connected, like thrillers and horror movies. So, all right, I'm gonna end this stream there. I did um I do plan to do another one Friday, so definitely tune in It'll be a little more planned out of a live stream, but I'm going to start it at 5 o'clock. I think 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. So yeah, and I'll post things to remind everybody as well. But I will see you guys then, or if you're wanting to be a part of the movie stream, we're gonna do that on Saturday night. So I will see you guys later. Thank you so much for hanging out with me.